passes. God. All is okay, I'm assuming. Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside's Council meeting of June 27th, 2023, opening at 7:01 p.m. Welcome to all those who are present here in the Council chamber and to those who are watching from home. Before we commence, please turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent if you have not done so already. According to our procedures policy, which we were alerted to at our last mandatory training session last week, mobile phones are not allowed to be used during council meetings. So please now stand for the acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land we meet on today as the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia, and as we are about to enter NAIDOC week, the focus for the week is looking at for our elders. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. You will of course need to use your microphone to register your intent to enter the debate and wait until I've asked you to speak. Please turn off your microphone when you have finished speaking. Please be respectful and patient while listening to each speaker and do not interrupt or interject during the debate. And of course, you know, 3 minutes with a warning bell at 2. Before I go to the agenda, if you wished, this is something else that came up at our mandatory workshop the other night. If you wish to withdraw an item for debate, please indicate this quickly. Otherwise, I'll seek a mover or seconder. That's not new. But as discussed, as long as the item has been removed for debate or withdrawn for debate, anyone may move the motion. We have an apology from Councillor Hubel, and actually it's an apology until it becomes a leave of absence approval, isn't it? Declaration of interest. I believe there is a declaration.
I do have one, thank you, Your Worship. Pursuant to Section 75B of the Local Government Act 1999, I declare a general conflict of interest on agenda item 11.2, 40 kilometres per hour engagement and implementation. Along with a large section of the community, I participated in the general community engagement for Precinct 1 as a resident. I intend to participate in the discussion for this item and I intend to vote. I can separate my personal view on this matter and the collective community feedback Council has received and the decision Council has to make. I did not publicise my personal view, nor did I persuade, coerce or compel members of the community to follow my personal view on this matter throughout the community engagement process. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I too have a general, pursuant to section 29, I think that was the one, just 75, I beg your pardon, thank you. I too have a general interest in item 11.2. I too, as a resident and very interested participant, participated in the engagement process, but I feel I can separate my local residential interest and attend to my general council responsibilities under the Local Government Act. So I intend to stay as part of the debate and vote accordingly. So I declare a general interest.
Councillor Henschke.
I'd like to also declare a conflict of general interest in 11.2. I also engaged as the other councillors and attend to the debate responsibly and stay to vote. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Your Worship. As a resident at the time and a non-council member, I also participated in the and responded to the survey, and under section 75 I also tend to stay in the room and voice my opinion and vote in this particular 11.2. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett.
Mine's actually a question because I did comment, but I understand through an email communication back that my comments were removed from the consultation process because I was commenting about an area that wasn't included in the engagement.
I'll just seek some advice on that, whether it's necessary or not for you to declare.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just refer that to Ms Reynolds.
And just while that's happening, we do have an apology in Councillor Hubel. We should be on the screen.
Through the Mayor, it's my understanding, Councillor Hallett, that you actually at the time responded to two different areas and you requested that one be removed. However, the one that you didn't request is still in there, so I would recommend that you make the same declaration.
Okay. I would like to make a declaration that I have a conflict of interest. However, I also feel that I can make a decision and vote based on what's good for the whole of the city.
Thank you. Are there any other further ones? Councillor Hallett, could you turn your mic off? Thank you. There being no further, I will now move through to the confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover, please. Councillor Zing, you're moving it. Councillor Turnbull, you're seconding. Unless you have anyone has any questions, I'll put that to the motion, to the vote. All those in favour, those against, carried. Now there's no adjourned business, no public question time, no presentations or deputations or petitions tonight, so I'll go straight to the reports and seek withdrawal or alternatively someone to move the motion. Obviously number 11.1 is going to have to be withdrawn, well I'm assuming so Councillor Cornish, you wish to
Withdraw? Yes, I
make
do.
sure that one is withdrawn. Thank you. Just erase a pen. The 40-hour K engagement and implementation, Councillor Henschke. Social media, Councillor Davey. Finance end of month, Councillor Davey, are you?
Oh,
Anyone? I'll seek a mover then. Thank you, Councillor Dawes, you wish to ask a question or are you moving? No, okay, moving. Seconded, Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee. Councillor, someone like to move that? Councillor Cornish. And seconded by? I seek a seconder. Use your button, please, Councillor Jennings. And Councillor Zing, you've got in first. So seconded by Councillor Zing. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Activity report, Councillor Turnbull.
I just want to move it.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Zing. Sorry, I haven't got the microphone on. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The Chief Executive report, Councillor Davey. Right, so we go back to 11.1. Doesn't have to be Councillor Cornish. In fact, it is Councillor Cornish. He has his finger on the button first.
I do. Thank you, Worship. I do have an alternative motion that I presume everyone's got ready to go. And you'll see from an email that we received today from Commissioner Reynolds that some updated valuations have come through this morning and has had some effect. We've got a copy of the new figures that were provided in yellow on the table. We also had a couple of variations in terms of scenarios that were provided to us in the email. The one that I am choosing with this motion is scenario C, which provides a 5.8% increase to residential ratepayers, which is what we went out to the community and consulted with, and provides the council with a slight surplus as well. So it gives us a bit more breathing room when and if we need it throughout the financial year, rather than starting the year off in a deficit. So a lot of work's gone into this. I thank the administration for putting it together. It's been an extraordinarily tough year to put this budget together with all of the pressures that both the economy and this council are facing. And I put this motion to the chamber.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Zing, do you wish to speak now?
Thank you, Mayor. It's been a tough budget. We've spent many hours over it. We've gone through workshops and consultations and also moved a number of our own projects.
Hang on, can you just start again with your microphone on this time?
All good?
Oh, sorry.
Is that working now? Councillor Turner, can you just turn yours off, please?
All good? Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. It's been a tough budget. We've spent many hours over it. We've gone through workshops and consultations and also moved a number of our own projects. It's about getting the balance of our resources being utilised efficiently and effectively. We're also a sensible rate rise, ensuring we're maintaining services and also laying the groundwork for sustainable 24-25 as well. Reading through the community feedback, it is evident that many are under pressure from cost of living, mortgages and other rate rises. Fiscal responsibility is a key for all of us, and mixed with inflation numbers, councils are facing significant demands. It's important that we're enhancing our parks, facilities and open spaces at the same time. Just also want to thank Karishma, Matt, Chris and the team for all their hard work as well. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
I just have a question. Councillor Cornish mentioned the options when he was... I can't see them in this updated report, so I'm not really clear about what we're moving. If I could have that clarified, thanks.
Certainly. Through Madam Mayor, earlier today, I'll just pull it up so I can quote the time of the email, at 5 o'clock as it turns out, Ms Reynolds sent around an email which had a summary of 4 different scenarios. I'll just talk to them, just so you, if you don't have the email in front of you, you're aware of it. No, that's why I'm going to expand on it now. What was sent out to elected members was, having regard for the updated valuations that the Valuer General sent to us at the last minute, she sent around an option which showed the 5.8 as was in the council report that is in front of you in the agenda. Now, Karishma did have to update a couple of figures, which is on the hard copy on the table in front of you with highlights. So that reflects what is proposed in the agenda. Then it also talked about the break-even position if council chose to, rather than have, as it turns out now, a $25,000 deficit, rather have a zero bottom line. That would necessitate a rate rise of 5.86 overall. And that would, if we break that down in terms of the increase to residential properties versus the balance, residential would experience an increase of 5.7% overall, with the non-residential and vacant land carrying the rest of the burden. The other scenario that was shared, that Councillor Cornish is now moving, is to go for a rate rise of 6.01%, and what that would achieve, that would bring the residential rate rise to 5.8%, which is, and achieve a surplus position of $67,000. So I hope that clarifies for Council, Madam Mayor. Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I know that so much work's gone into this and it's so crucial, but I'm afraid I'm going to vote against it, and it's all because of number 15 on page 10, which is the approves the Era Water budget, draft budget, noting the budget results, etc., etc. Now, they'll have an 800k capital commitment from council, etc. So here we go again. 2 days before the end of the financial year, we have to approve this. It's been snuck in. And if we don't allocate this money, we found a little bit...
Madam Mayor, point of order.
Yes. It hasn't actually been snuck in. I'll let the CEO explain.
I would just ask that elected members don't misdrew the facts. It has not been snuck in. It is in fact put in as normal course of business, and it was spoken about at every point along the way.
Well, unfortunately, I did withdraw it once in April just to ask for a more robust discussion about it, and also Councillor Jones withdrew the one about Keswick, Brownhill Keswick as well. But we really haven't had much. I did find something on one of the pages about what happens if we don't allocate the money, and that's fair enough. It was page 237 points it out. It's a $5 million debt which we would have to bear, 2 years' notice of leave, remaining liable for financial contributions up to the date of withdrawal. So really, in a way, we have to do it. I feel it's a slight bit of blackmail. Okay, I'll probably get a point of order for that word too, but we have to support it. This is my 5th year in council, and each year it's been the same. Asking for about $1 million just to keep it afloat and without any discussion much at all. We've inherited it. It's a non-performing, really, subsidiary, scientifically not feasible. I can remember in the first year saying there's a hole in the bucket, and there still is. So I don't know how many more years we have to keep dishing out $1 million, or nearly $1 million, just to keep this afloat before we actually finally have the robust discussion to cut it off. Thank you.
I don't have anyone on the screen. I'm sure there's someone else who wishes to speak. You want me to put the vote? No, we've suddenly got a couple. Councillor Henschke, you're next.
Thank you. So just a question to clarify on this email we've just been handed the hard printout of. I read it quickly at 5 p.m. before I came in, and I'm just making sure I fully understand. The rates increase on this table refers to the last option is 6.01%, and in brackets residential at 5.8%. Means that residential increase is 5.8%. Is that, whereas in our papers the officer's recommendation was the first column.
Through Madam Mayor.
Originally.
Yes, I can confirm that the motion that is before you at the minute is the far right-hand column.
Right.
6.01 overall, focusing on the fact that it will result in a residential increase of 5.8. And actually, given the updated figures, the column that in this table, which refers to the motion that is in the agenda, is the second column in now. Yep. Because we've had to update it given the growth figures that the VG provided at the last minute.
Right, so just clarifying again further, it means residential increases by 0.2 tonight, this new motion, and non-residential goes up also by 0.2, and vacant land goes down by 0.1.
Through Madam Mayor, that is correct.
So why would vacant land go down? Because we're trying to deter vacant land happening in the city.
Through Madam Mayor, what we can't see on this table is the movements that have resulted from the valuation changes that come through from the VG. So council's differential is still achieving its goal, that any property that is vacant land is still has the double the general rate applied to it. So it's just the nuance. Sorry, 250%. Sorry, not double. That small movement in the percentages is just a nuance of the valuations that have come through at this last minute.
Do you wish to speak, or? Oh, okay. We can come back. That's fine. Next one is Councillor Dawes.
Oh, I have a question. When we sent out the draft annual business plan and budget, this particular document, did it only go to residents? A question to administration.
Through Madam Mayor, I might get Ms Reynolds just to answer that for me.
Through the mayor, it went to everyone, so not just residential, so it went to commercial businesses as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Henschke.
Oh, right. I'll speak briefly. So I noted that the Essential Services Commission of South Australia, when they reviewed Burnside Council, they pointed out there is an affordability risk in our city, that our 95% of ratepayers who are residents, there is a risk of affordability to pay rates. So we have to watch increasing our rates for their affordability. We are going to be increasing it by 0.2% with this new motion, so that increases that affordability risk. We have this, by increasing the rates, however, we will have a surplus, an operating surplus, which will be helpful, because at the moment the papers we received said we've got no room for unforeseen contingencies. So that was a concern. That is a big concern for us if we operate with a deficit, and then also we're not within our local government parameters for that. And yeah, cost control was another. Operating OPEX costs. We have been going up in operation costs for the last few years by 3%. So we are spending more in our OPEX, and SCO's have pointed that out for us. So costs are going up, rates are going up, and we really have to watch the affordability for our residents. So I'll support the motion, but I am very concerned about the risks. Thank you.
Thank God.
Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cornish, for your motion. I'm happy to support this, and I thank the staff for the late information that luckily came through just in time. I thank everyone for all of the work that's been done. It's developing a budget and business plan is a huge amount of work. I thank all of our community who responded, because I believe we've had a significant response to all of the information that was provided. So I think this is a good outcome. I think one that our community can support, and I'm very happy and hope everyone will support it. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
I'll speak now, Mayor. I'm disappointed, I have to say. Again, I'll refer to this average rates increase of 5.8%, and that includes residents and non-residents. And now that average has gone to 6.01%. That is not what we went to the community on. We had many workshops, many iterations, etc. That graph, or that pie diagram on page 13, we say 52% supported 5.8% or greater. What it should say is 77% supported 5.8% or less. And yet we're going higher. And just because we think, oh, well, they will, we can make it 5.8, but we are putting up residential rates by 0.3% tonight. We're putting up because we've gone from 5.5 to 5.8. Right? Because we said average was 5.8, so therefore residents can accept 5.8, but that included residential and non-residential. So I'm very, very disappointed. What I also want to point out to you is the valuations on page 70. The average at that time, it might have changed a little bit over the last couple of days, was 13%. If your valuation went up more than 13%, you'll be paying more than 5.8%, because 20 of those 28 suburbs in Burnside have a valuation more than 13%. I'm lucky because my suburb was less than 13%, but you have a look at them. So what we are saying is just to get a little surplus, and we did say in this document that we'd have a minor surplus of 30,000. Now we're saying it's going to be a minor surplus of 25,000, so that's about the same. But now we're saying let's get a little profit, and because people didn't understand it was really 5.5%, now it's 5.8, therefore we can go up by 0.3%. I think we're being unfair to residents and, more particularly, unfair to non-residents. We have a motion later on tonight from Councillor Zing talking about support for businesses, and we have just put up theirs by 0.2%. So I'm just thinking, come on guys, let's go back to what we originally put forward. Don't worry about a small surplus. Let's go back to what we originally put forward, and I think you'll find the residents would support us. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Look, I'm disappointed, like Councillor Dawes, that we have to put the rates up by 6.01%. But the fact is that we voted to go out to consultation with 5.8, and then 5 minutes later we voted to spend more money. And the fortnight after we voted to spend more money. So we don't, there's no magic money tree in the city of Burnside. At least I haven't seen it yet. I'll go and look on Urban Forest Interactive. But we can't keep spending money and not charging people for it. And the fact is, if we run deficits, we're going to get even more in debt than we already are. The only thing that pays off the debt, because we keep saying we like having new things, is budget surpluses, and if our depreciation is higher than our capital expenditure. Look, before COVID, we ran 3% surpluses every year, and that was kind of keeping the debt under minor control. Because of our 2 years of 0% increases, we didn't cut spending, we just cut the surplus. So we're making things worse for ourselves. So I do think if we're going to keep spending money, we have to put the rates up. Otherwise, let's cut the spending and then we can have lower rates. So I'm happy with the 6.01%. Other things in this budget, I mean, I could cheerfully lose the dog park, frankly. I don't think we seem to get very much for our $350,000 to plant a fence down the middle and plant some trees. I'm loath to say that I approve the Brownhill Keswick Creek subsidiary budget. It's a shocking waste of ratepayers' money. The more I find out about it, the worse it gets. I've been on council 5 years. First time I discovered we're locked in to pay $70 million over the next 20 years. What a shocker. Who signed that one? The same people who signed us up to Era Water, which again, I have to say, Era Water are marginally in favour of the budget, but we're having to plough yet more money into this. It's pretty narrow whether we'd be better off just closing the bloody thing down, frankly. I think it's marginally more expensive to put in this capital expenditure rather than just call it a day and take on our share of the debt. My suspicion is Walkerville, with this review, the crunch time is approaching. But anyway, so look, I have to disagree with Councillor Dawes, and I will reluctantly vote to support this budget.
Anyone else wish to speak? I have no one on the screen. Councillor Cornish, do you want to sum up?
No, I'm happy to put it to vote, thank you.
I'll put this to the vote then. Those in favour of the budget, of what's on the motion there, please raise your hands. Those against? Division's been called, so those who, it was carried. Now those who supported it, would they please stand while I call out your names? That's Councillor Zing, Davey, Wilkins, Jennings, Jones, Hallett, Harvey, Cornish and Henschke. Those against, Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Dawes. Thank you very much. Now we'll move to the 40-hour K engagement and implementation. Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move with the officer's recommendation that receives the notes. I don't think I have to read out the... Should I read it out? No? Receive? No. So I move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Nothing else you wish to say?
No.
Okay. Councillor Davey, you're next.
Thank you.
Seconding, Councillor Davey?
Yes, and I have an amendment at
Okay.
the same time. Thank you.
Can we hear what it is and then we can determine whether it's an amendment or whether it's a variation?
If you could bring that up onto the screen, Bronnie, thanks. It is along the lines, it's a new 3, and it is that Council continues discussions with Norwood, Payneham and St Peters Council regarding the possibility of including a proposal for 40 km per hour speed limit along Shipsters Road, subject to community and Department of Transport support. And then the numbers consequentially go down. So my comments are that I thank the administration and for all of the work that's been done to date on this project. It's a huge amount to get to this stage. I think the interest shown by our community is encouraging, although I am surprised at the result from the Eastwood area, which didn't support a 40 km per hour speed limit. I have long believed that the introduction of a 40 km per hour reduced speed limit in our residential streets, in these 4 precincts in particular, but I think across Burnside, as in many of our other suburbs across Adelaide, such as Unley, Westbourne Park, Prospect. There's so many areas that have 40 km per hour in their residential streets already, is hopefully something that will change the behaviour of motorists in our area. All these areas in Burnside are densely populated, all have schools which both attract motorists and which mean we need to be doing as much as possible to reduce speeds, to encourage and support the pedestrians and cyclists and the range of age groups. So we've got from very young kids to quite a significant mature age population, and to preserve preserve residential amenity. We all know there's an incredible amount of through traffic coming through our streets from the main roads as the population increases. And the reason I've made the amendment is that we have an interesting scenario in the suburbs of Kensington Park and Shipsters Road, which, as many of you will know is a major through road from Kensington Road through to the parade. It includes 2 schools, a huge conglomeration of residential homes and some businesses. And Norwood, Payneham and St Peters are moving to consider Kensington to be a 40 km per hour area. So having on the agenda that we actually look at Shipsters Road down the track becoming a 40 km per hour speed limit street is something that I think we should be watchful of. While we introduce this and progress this, I think we should keep on the table that Norwood, Payneham and St Peters and us need to keep talking about this along with the Department of Transport. So hopefully that's clear and you'll support this motion. Thank you.
Before we move on, I need a seconder for the first motion that was tabled before I then seek a seconder for the amendment. And I apologise for talking whilst you were speaking, Councillor Davey, but I was trying to clarify that situation before and make sure that yours was not a variation rather than an amendment. So I might add that I have spoken with the Mayor of Norwood, Payneham St Peters. They're doing their areas in zones. They're a few years down the track in that area of Shipsters Road, but we are already talking with them about that. So, a seconder, Councillor Wilkins, for the first motion that was tabled. Yes. Thank you very much. Did you wish to speak now or later?
I will speak.
Okay, then you can go.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I will speak to this motion because I happen to agree, as a resident at the time in Eastwood, we all do less than 40 k's per hour already because the roads are so narrow and there are traffic parked on either side. You are creating a hazard, a traffic hazard, if you go any faster. What people are totally pissed off with is the fact that there are so many people travelling at speed from Glen Osmond Road through to Fullerton Road. So we are happy that I haven't moved anything in this particular budget because we're so crammed full. We are going to be part of the local area traffic management plan next year, 23-24, and we will consider how we can modify and subdue the traffic that's cutting through our tiny connected suburb. So for that reason, a lot of people already voted no because they already keep to the 40 k's per hour. So I'm happy to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. But just before we move on, I just want to remind everybody about appropriate language. We've had a couple of words uttered tonight that aren't appropriate. So I am just reminding everybody about appropriate language during council meeting. We are being live streamed. It is a public meeting and it's important that we are appropriate. So now we need to deal with Treat Janes as an amended motion, and I now need a seconder for the amendment of the motion. And it has to be somebody who hasn't already. Thank you, Councillor Zing. Do you wish to speak now?
I do wish to speak now. Thank you, Mayor. Happy to support this as it affects the safety and well-being of our community. Road safety is an issue that affects every single one of us, whether we're drivers, pedestrians or cyclists. We should always feel safe. At the same time, we need to ensure appropriate traffic calming measures are in place and monitor as well. Reducing the speed is one of the ways that we can support the community and save lives. It also promote more active transport and encourage people to walk or cycle instead of relying solely on cars. Improving health and reducing congestion at the same time. We've all seen the many close incidents recently, so hopefully they'll serve as one way to support.
Thank you, Councillor Henschke. Are you speaking to the amendment?
Yes, I am.
I'm just checking. No.
No, I can't. No?
Sorry,
Yeah, no, please do.
I can't.
You can ask a question
Oh, that's a good
of the amendment.
Of the amendment, yes.
Yeah.
Just say whether other members are happy.
Look, I did raise the question about it being an amendment rather or a variation, and the CEO's just come back to me and agreed with me that we think we could deal with your amendment as a variation if the mover and the seconder of the motion is willing to accept it as a variation. The mover was, I have to go back.
Councillor Henschke seconded, Councillor Wilkins.
It was Councillor Wilkins, you seconded. Are you happy to allow that additional piece to go in there? And Councillor Henschke, are you happy?
I will be happy with a slight wording change, if that's all right with the amenders. And what that is, if we can go back to the amendment section, please. On the motion, yeah. So I think it'd be really helpful for the whole city if that's slightly reworded. So authorises the administration continue discussions with Norwood, Payneham, St Peters Council. And this is where we're very specific here about one road in a precinct kind of area. And I think we should continue discussions with Norwood, Payneham, St Peters Council in general about the whole city. There are lots of pockets. Lockwood Road, Lockwood Road, Northumberland Avenue, all of these primary collectors that are going to precincts have this speed issue, okay? So we've got Lockwood Avenue, Northumberland, Shipsters, they're dotted all through the city. So from a city master plan point of view, that would be more helpful if we're just not so specific about one particular road. So if we just have something in there about the city master plan, continue discussions with the other council, and can I have a question? How much will this cost to our budget?
It's not about money.
No, I'm just asking how much, do we need a budget for these discussions? Just checking.
No. Through Madam Mayor, I'll just deal with the first question first. The minor variation that Councillor Davey is seeking will not cost any, have no financial impact. And in fact, it's something we're already going to be doing. It's just putting it in the motion to clarify.
The issue is one side of the street, I'm not sure if you realise it, one side of the street of Shipsters Road is Norwood Payneham St Peters. The other side of the street is Burnside. And the problem then would become if in trying to convince the Department of Transport to allow for that road to become a 40-hour zone would require consent of both and approval and submission by both councils. So that's the anomaly here. I know that we might have potentially that with Northumberland when we get to the other end of the street, but that's another issue that perhaps is something we need to look at later on. So will you accept the variation as it is now at the moment, Councillor Henschke?
It's adding another piece into the picture. No, I'm saying this is adding another road to the story.
No, it's a road that's already in existence within the Beulah Park area.
Yeah, but it's adding to it hasn't been consulted on. We haven't brought that road into the picture of consultation, have we, like all the others?
I need a yes, no answer from you. Yes or no?
Yes, it's fine.
Thank you, Councillor Henschke. Now, sorry, I didn't get any other microphone, but that is now the motion. So anyone now wishes to speak who has not yet? Councillor Jones.
I am going to speak for the 45% of people who don't want 40-kilometre-per-hour zones. And frankly, it's 45% after a council communication that was pretty aggressively pushing having 40-kilometre-per-hour zones. As a number of respondents commented, look, I walk a lot around the city of Burnside. I walk along 50-kilometre-per-hour roads. I walk along 60-kilometre-per-hour roads. I never feel in the slightest bit of danger. And that's in Beaumont, where we've barely got footpaths. So I've never heard such utter nonsense that having 40-kilometre-hours is suddenly going to create this panacea where everyone's going to be walking everywhere and they won't be taking their giant SUVs to Burnside Village. It's just utter tosh. I'm trying to keep my language here. Thank you, Mayor. It's utter tosh. Balderdash. Utter nonsense. So I can't support this motion. And look, 40Ks, if there's a specific traffic problem in a specific street, do something about it. Not having these general rules. Now, look, the trouble with 40-kilometre-hour zone is that people who don't obey 50-kilometre-an-hour speeding limits aren't going to obey the 40-kilometre-hour speeding limits. So you're not going to make things any safer. You're going to be hoping that SAPOL police them. Whereas if you have real traffic calming measures, you will slow traffic down. Because like Lockwood Road, where people are going 90, Well, the speed limit's 50 already and they're still going 90. So making it 40, I know Burnside, you know, the outer suburbs aren't even included in this, this measure, because we're obviously road safety in some suburbs is important, but road safety in other suburbs isn't important. There's no logic to this. It's wrong. If there's a problem, fix a specific problem. 40 k's per hour, I guarantee you, is going to save nothing. It's not going to. How many accidents have there been? People asked, and the fact is, very few. If you've got specific problems, fix specific problems. Road humps are great. Chicanes are great. They don't cost that much. Roundabouts are fantastic, and you can plant understories in the middle of roundabouts. How good is that? You get a double whammy from your traffic control. So please, people, vote for the 45%, probably actually 50% who didn't want this, and I won't be supporting.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes, you're next. Councillor Wilkins, just can you avoid speaking quite so much when someone is speaking in the debate? Now, Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I just want to, just in response to Councillor Jones there, we should look at paragraph 29 on page 267. And here's evidence for you. When they did put in Charles Sturt, there's 40 kilometres an hour, 3 things were picked up. And this is evidence. I like evidential sort of data coming back to us. The average speed decreased, not by very much, but it did decrease. And the 85 percentile, which is the industry standard, that also decreased. But the important one for me was 29.3, that the rat running decreased by 7.4%. And I think that's amazing, and I think that will probably increase over time. So for me, I'm supporting it because of paragraph 29.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Councillor Dawes. That 29.3 was the big seller for me. And in fact, I think if the administration actually went out with that as the top of their pamphlet, not about the safety of going down, but of the fact that it's going to cut your rat running down by 7.4% in terms of volume, I reckon that yes vote would have been a lot higher, actually. So I will be supporting it for that, and the fact that the majority of residents in the areas that we are saying yes to did actually support it. So I will be supporting the motion.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also will be supporting the motion. When people feel safe on the roads, they will use active transport. Parents are petrified of letting their children ride to school because of a 300 series Land Cruiser, which if you are driving, you can't see anything. You've got a camera at the back that only works if you're in reverse. You know, most of the time you're sitting...
Sorry, Councillor Jennings, could you just come closer to your microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Most of the time when I ride past these vehicles at traffic lights, they have got a telephone on their lap and they're Instagramming, TikToking, Facebooking, messaging, emails, reading council minutes, who knows? But it's not the actual speed, it is the distraction of drivers. And I'm a little worried if people are driving slower, they might feel they're a bit safer being distracted. But cars are getting smarter and they're not letting people use their telephones while they are driving. So I'm in support of this. Speed humps are not the solution. Traffic calming doesn't quite work as it should these days, especially since we've got more cars on the road. So when Unley did swap to lowered their speed limits and blocked off their streets, they didn't have social media, and they didn't have everybody who has got a phone or a computer that could just fire up and give their 2 cents to whoever was going to read it. So this should be a good experiment, and I hope there is a good outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? If not, I'm going to go back to councillor Henschke, because you ran the original motion.
Oh, right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, well, thank you to the administration, because this has been a long process and lots of consultation and engagement. So thank you all. And thank you all in the chamber tonight, because you've all touched on some very, very important things. Councillor Jones, Councillor Cornish, it's proven, QED, 7% reduction in rat runs. And scholarly articles, engineers write, say that reducing traffic speed reduces cut-through traffic. And that's proven, thank you to the other councils. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel there. And as for Beaumont, it's not surrounded by arterials that feed a city, unfortunately. Sunnyside Drive, Gwynburn Road. But if you live in the wards that have wide streets and are very convenient, that you can avoid the big intersections and Dequeteville Terrace and Portrush Road, of course you will duck down the streets, and you will drive at 50 or 60 because you're in a hurry. So at least the 40 kilometres per hour. Whilst we're not going to be policing everyone, Councillor Jones, we will reduce 10 k's off of someone. They might be normally a 60k rat runner. They'll be going at 50. Maybe they're a 50k rat runner. They'll be going down 40. So that's what we do hope, because every 10 kilometres makes a big difference for the cyclist or child walking, riding or jogging along to school on a road. Hopefully they're doing it on the footpath. So thank you all. I do hope this is just, we've heard from the community. And they are supporting. Yes, there are people that are not so convinced, but let's proceed with this. Thank you.
Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Division has been called.
We have to call a division anyway, because we have to record the people that have an interest.
Oh, of course. All right, so please stand if you are in support of the motion. So we'll start with around this left-hand side, Councillor Zing, Davey, Wilkins, Jennings, Dawes, Turnbull, Hallett, Harvey, Cornish and Henschke. Those against? Councillor Jones. And of course it was carried. Thank you. Now we move to the 11.3, the policy review, social media. Councillor Davey, and it's page 433.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to move a slight amendment. That Council 1 adopts the updated media policy with the inclusion of reference to the Disability Discrimination Act. And the same to the adopts, at number 2, adopts the updated social media policy with the inclusion of reference to the Disability Discrimination Act. Somehow these have got left out of the relevant legislation, and I haven't included our Disability Access and Inclusion Plan, but I guess if we just use the main it's just that they're great and they've been reviewed, but I think we need to keep in mind that we have people who in our community, for whatever reason, whether it's their age, their literacy, their literacy skills, their language skills, might not be able to readily access our media and our social media policy. So it's just to bear in mind that we, I think, need to include consideration of that when we're developing these policies. So I'd just like to see that in the relevant legislation at the front. Thanks very much.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Wilkins, you're willing to second?
I am indeed. I won't need to speak.
Don't need to speak. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? Councillor Cornish.
Yeah, just a question regarding the minor amendment. Just want the administration's view on it, if I could. Obviously, I understand it's just adding it into the box at the front of the pages of both of the policies. If I can get your view.
Through Madam Mayor, Councillor Dave and I actually had a conversation earlier today. It doesn't detract from the policies, and in fact reinforces our requirements as per the Act. So it can only be a positive. So I'm certainly comfortable with the addition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
It appears to be my turn to be the contrarian tonight. I don't think we need a media policy at all, since we're not in communist China. But 5.10 is deeply objectionable. It's a violation of elected members' constitutional right to freedom of political communication. I give notice that I won't be obeying it, and I'll see you in court, and I'll be voting against this motion.
I hope we won't see you in court. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Henschke.
Thank you. I've got a question regarding Councillor Jones's view there. Can the administration provide comment, please?
Through Madam Mayor, can I ask Councillor Jones just to clarify what page she was referring to there?
Yes. I was trying to find
Page 466.
66. 5.10.
Item? What's the item number? Sorry, what's the item number?
5.10.
Okay. If questioned by the media on their opinions regarding business yet to come before council.
Through you, Madam Mayor, of course Councillor Jones can interpret that as he wishes, but my best advice to council still remains that before a matter, if a matter has not come to the, if there is a matter before the chamber, my best advice is that you save the debate for in the chamber. You do run the risk of predetermined bias if you do share your opinions earlier, and potentially someone could call your decision-making process into question, given the fact that they could argue you haven't heard the debate. I hope that clarifies the position of the report, Madam Mayor.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Henschke?
No. I'm just off.
That's okay. Just checking.
No, not quite. Thank you. What I need clarity on in 5.10 is the words "yet to come before council." Does that mean
it
it's
just means
before
we haven't
council?
debated it yet. Yeah.
Yet to come, like when is the yet to come? It could be months before coming to council, or is it on the agenda published to council? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, the interpretation would have to be a matter that you are aware will come before the chamber. Obviously, if you are not aware of a matter that's becoming before the chamber, then you probably can't be held to account so much. But it would be a reasonable person test, a matter that you either acutely know is, for example, on the agenda paper, which is normally how the media would become aware of a matter, or a matter that, for example, has been listed in the reports that are yet to come to council in the latter part of our agenda. That would normally happen. I think you'll find in reality it does become quite obvious when the media are questioning about a matter. But that, again, that would be my understanding of that clause.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I will be supporting the motion and 5.10. It's not in the Constitution of Australia, which I carry with me. I know Councillor Jones and I have had this debate many times. We don't have a constitutional right, so we do have a policy that we should abide by, and we have a local government act that says that we should wait until the debate on the particular topic and vote then and listen to all of the arguments. And we shouldn't be going out to the media before we have that and saying, I'm going to vote against this or I'm going to vote this way, because that is not in the spirit of what local government is about. So I'm just highlighting what the CEO has just said, and the fact that our right isn't in the Constitution of Australia. Thank you. It's a High Court decision, but that wasn't tested on the Local Government Act of South Australia in 1999. Thank you, Councillor. Anyway, I'll commend the motion to the Chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Cornish. No more cross-debating. Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I'd like to go back to Councillor Davey to summarise, and then I'll put the motion.
Thank you, everyone, for your input. I don't have anything further to add. Hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. I knew you'd do that. He just wants everyone to have lots of exercise tonight. So please, please stand if you voted in if you intend to vote in favour, because of course you could change your mind. So those who are in favour: Councillor Zing, Davey, Wilkins, Jennings, Dawes, Turnbull, Hallett, Harvey, Cornish and Henschke. And against, Councillor Jones. And it was carried. Now I'll move to the Chief Executive Officer's report. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move in accordance with the recommendation. And I just had a couple of questions, particularly regarding the first one, which I didn't have time to follow up. And it's
Can
paragraph.
you just give us our page? That's right. I was just going to ask you if you've got a page number.
Yes.
Yep.
489, the council dashboard. Could the CEO just update us about that and perhaps give us a rundown of what the items are? Because it said it will be provided in the June CEO update report, which is what this is. So, and then I had a couple of questions about the recruitment. Thanks.
Through Madam Mayor, certainly happy to clarify. So the CEO report that's before you is the May CEO report. So in essence, I'm saying at the next council meeting, next CEO report, which will be in 2 meetings' time. The reason I haven't put it in is I felt that the report I was presenting to you was too busy and slightly confusing in the way I presented it. I'm looking to present it in a much more simplified manner, using the stoplight methodology. So I am quite certain when you see it again, you'll appreciate the change and the fact that I've made it more readable and easy to understand.
Thank you. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, I need a seconder first. Are you seconding Councillor Jennings?
Yes.
All right. Off you go.
I have a question about 21.17, the tour of the What Quarry site and the briefing. Yeah, so there's been a lot of community voice on the streets, especially the cyclists going up Norton Summit, wondering what's going to happen there and how much the hill is going to be removed. What can you shed some light on that for me, please?
Yes, certainly. So through Madam Mayor, Mr. Cant and myself were invited for a tour by the operator. And I might add that as part of that tour, they also put an invite out, which Mr. Cant and I were going to share shortly, for any elected members or council members, should they wish to have a tour of the quarry. They would prepare to take people around for a drive, in a 4-wheel drive. Basically, the tour focused around the work that the quarry had been doing on their detention basins to stop stormwater runoff. I must say, once you see the investment that they have made in trying to control the water flow from the site, it is impressive, the efforts they're going to, and by their own admission, they'll admit that they've got more work to do. They did talk about the extent of the excavation, and I think it's the face you're referring to. They did take particular note that they were going to retain the side of the hill that is viewable for the majority of residents. Obviously a tour would clarify that for people. But again, it was reassuring to hear that they were listening to residents' concerns. Obviously, they're still a commercial business and they are excavating material, but I did come away feeling that they were cognizant of residents in a couple of aspects. One, from the view that they are experiencing, noise generation and water runoff. One of the key aspects that certainly impressed me was the plant they're using now to crush and process the excavated material is a mobile plant which is located at the quarry face rather than at that fairly antiquated piece of plant you see right at the gate. That has now been decommissioned. So the noise is better contained and doesn't resonate like it used to. But again, Mr. Cant will send out an invitation. The other thing that was of particular interest was they're doing partnerships with certain community groups, and one in particular was a rock climbing club, and they are working with their insurers to open up parts of the rock face that they're not currently working on to allow the rock climbing club to actually use it for part of their activities, which is apparently, it's either the first in South Australia or first in Australia, where they're actually allowing a community group, such as the rock climbing club, to utilise a rock face. Obviously, there's lots of safety requirements they've got to comply with, but it was an interesting anecdote to the tour. Yeah. Any further questions, Madam Mayor?
Did you wish to speak on it at all, or you're just answering a question? Did you wish to speak? Okay. All right, so next one is Councillor Hallett.
Oh.
Councillor Dawes, can you turn yours off, please? No. Councillor Hallett was at the top of the list. Yes, you're... no, Councillor Davis thinks and then you. Right. Off you go, Councillor Hallett.
Councillor Hallett, turn those on.
So, I've also got some questions about 21.17.
She's not on.
Oh, your light's all on, Councillor Hallett.
It's flashing, someone else has got it.
Somebody else has got... Oh, Councillor Davis, can you just turn yours off? I have got you scheduled to speak next, but now, no, right.
Press?
No, just
I've written it down, so...
Okay. Okay, my question also relates to item 21.17 on page 489, and just some questions about that tour. It's my understanding that the company actually takes water from the creek, that the water that they use in their production process is actually taken from the creek, and they don't pay anything for that.
Oh, through Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of that level of detail. I'd have to take it on notice and find out for you.
And also whether anything came up in regard to rehabilitation.
Through Madam Mayor, it certainly did. In fact, a fair bit of the conversation was about the different techniques they're using to rehabilitate as they go, rather than exhausting the mine and then rehabilitating. Again, I'm happy to get the company to provide specifics, but as I say, the one thing that did stand out, and I must say, I think he probably mentioned it 4 or 5 times through the tour, he did note their efficient use of material to ensure rehab as they go, as opposed to, oh, Mr. Cant's just sent me a message which might help me out. Yeah, no. Nope, didn't help me out. So I thought that was a positive response in terms of how they're managing their mine operating plan. But that, yeah, that's the only feedback I can give at this stage.
And one more question about the bus tour.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Is that we can individually contact them, or they would do a tour for elected members?
Yep. Through Madam Mayor, I'm happy to be the conduit. So Mr. Cant will send an email out reasonably soon. And the best way to do the tour is actually they'll take you in their full drive. So it'll probably be groups of, 4 maximum, but it'll be cosy in the back seat, and at a time, and they're happy to take people around.
Okay,
So we'll sorry about that. Yes, no, we'll coordinate that.
Thank you.
Next was Councillor Davey. And then Councillor Dawes.
Flashing green. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just in relation to the White Rock Quarry site tour, the last council had an extensive briefing from the, which was very useful, when we had a whole lot of issues raised with us. So that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We actually all met up there, bussed up there, I think, and they gave us a debrief, and we were able to ask a lot of questions, because to my mind there are still lots of environmental issues, rehabilitation issues, biodiversity issues. They're adjacent to a national park, and I believe there's still some creek contamination. I'm not sure about taking water out of the creek. I wasn't aware of that, but that would probably be a question we could ask them. But we were having lots of silt contamination into the third creek, I think it is. Plus the residents were raising lots of concerns about the volumes of trucks coming from the site down their streets through, not Aldana, what's the suburb? Skye. So there are a whole lot of significant issues, and hopefully they have lifted their game, and I think are more aware of the residents, but I'd certainly welcome a tour. Perhaps when it's a little bit less muddy, it would be much nicer.
I think that what was interesting is that they did do a media release about probably 6 weeks ago, where they actually made the point that they were very cognizant of the criticism that had come from the community, and that they were doing their best to remedy the situation from all perspectives. And I remember doing a post on my Burnside highlights about the improvements that were happening. And I agree with you, Councillor Davey, it's certainly worthwhile, if you haven't been up there, to go and to visit the site, and particularly those of you who are the new representatives of that area. So, CEO.
Just a further point I might add. I think you might have been reflecting on the Borrell tour we had. We certainly had a bus tour to Borrell Quarry.
We did do one. We did do one to White Rock Quarry as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
But your points are still valid. I think both sites are struggling with their sedimentation and general runoff. And again, it's interesting. I agree. It's probably better to do the tour in the dry, but it was interesting in the wet. You could actually see the runoff kind of as it was occurring, or being trapped in their ponds. But again, we'll organise and facilitate that tour, so that councillors can be more aware.
Thank you.
Right, now Councillor...
And I've still got one more question. The paragraph 26, vacant positions in council. I'm not quite clear what the events coordinator recruitment schedule to be confirmed, and then versus the positions that are actively being recruited. Could you please clarify those and all those positions? The other ones are quite clear when their positions are going to be recruited. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr. Spearman.
Through the Mayor, thank you for the question. Oh, that's a little bit loud. Sorry. way to make an entrance. So as you might be aware, there's been a community connections restructure that's been underway. So the events coordinator has actually been put on hold as part of that restructure. So that's taken a little bit more time. It will come, but it just needs a little bit more time as we fill the positions leading through the different layers of the structure. The positions actively being recruited, those are actually nearing completion. For example, the digital literacy officer is at its final stages. The community development and venues manager has been appointed today. And the 2 civil maintenance positions have gone through the recruitment process and are almost finalized.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes, you're next.
Yeah, just that White Rock quarry too. Only about 6 of us could come that time, so I think it'd be good to have more there if we could. I found it very interesting. And one for Boral Quarry as well, it could be useful at Stonyfield. My question is related to 13.3 on page 488, CEO, and there was a procurement dispensation for electricity supply. Now, this might be commercial in confidence, but I was just trying to work out how much better deal did we get in percentage terms by going out into the market ourselves?
Through Madam Mayor, I haven't got the percentage terms in front, in the top of my mind. Having said that, I can share the dollar.
Barry's signalling.
Oh, sorry? No.
Okay. He was.
It's the second time, Mr. Gadd. Sorry to be frivolous. I haven't got the percentage in front of me, but in terms of dollar terms, in our most recent consideration, it resulted in I think a savings or efficiency gain for council of approximately 88,000.
Thank you.
And could be as high as 126. Just depends how a few pieces unfold.
Yeah. No, that's good.
But it was certainly worth the exercise, and I probably should go on record and thank Dr. Phil because it was his expertise that helped us do the analysis to gain that result.
Thank you. Councillor Hallett, you're next.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions about page 490. And in that table, it's got 2 positions. One, a digital literacy officer and a business partner procurement. What are they? What sort of positions are they? A digital literacy officer?
Yeah, certainly. I'll actually defer to Mr. Cooper for the digital literacy officer. The business partner procurement is it's probably just a fancy name that the industry is using now to talk about a procurement officer. So procurement, there's a centralised procurement role in council where they deal with all the contracts and tenders that we go through to procure goods and services for council. But Mr. Cooper will just elaborate on the digital literacy officer for me.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the Digital Literacy Officer is a library position, and it's essentially a role for someone that supports the community with all things IT issues, helping them with problems. We have a lot of requirement for that through the visitors to the library.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. One final question. Page 491 about Burnside War Memorial Hospital. I see you and the CEO and you have had a meeting. We used to have a 6-monthly update from the hospital, and I just wondered what happened to that, with just a bit of an idea about what was happening, issues and things like that. Has that stopped under the new CEO?
Yeah. Through Madam Mayor, I don't believe anything's stopped. I think the new CEO is obviously just working out the best way to have a line of communication with us. I'm certainly happy to, I guess, share that with the CEO and see what their thoughts are. I don't think they'll be opposed to it.
It's just that we don't get to meet with them.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on.
Yep.
But you are on a committee of a subcommittee of the hospital, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
No, I'm certainly happy to have a conversation. See where it goes.
Right, can we now, we've had a lot of questions. Can I just suggest that in future that you ask some of these questions prior to the council meeting? Because it will take, so we've spent about half an hour on one small, relatively not unimportant item that could have been resolved with a lot of questions asked prior to the meeting. So, Councillor Davey, you moved the motion. Are you happy for me to put it? Right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. The last of the reports. Before everyone goes and before Bernie goes, I just wanted, I'm just slightly change the agenda in terms of, I really would like to take this opportunity at the end of the reports to say thank you and farewell. There is a certain person who has been a very, very important person on this council for the last 8 or 9 years. I think I have 8, it's 8 years, that I have been delighted to have worked with Karishma Reynolds, seen her through 2 babies. No, I haven't really. Her husband's done that. But it has been 8 years of incredible work and support. I've always been astounded by her knowledge of working with numbers. From the moment that she took over the role and started doing videos on budget and made them actually engaging with the community. I mean, that was just, to me, absolutely phenomenal. She's a person who is highly principled, and I really value that, and I value that particularly during the processes that we went through 4 years ago and have still continued a long while after. I want to thank her for her generosity with her time and her passion for her job, and the wonderful relationships that she has had with a number of councils over those 8 years. And I really would like to wish her well, not only in the role, she's had 2 roles here, 3 roles here, but in the role that you move on to. And we all want to take this opportunity to wish you well in your future and say big thank you for everything that you have done for our community. I'm sorry, I meant to do it before some of the other staff left, but got get carried away with the report. So I wanted to do it before any other staff left. So now we can move back to the normal agenda, and Bernie can go. All right, so now we have questions on notice. You've all received the answers to those. And the next one is Small Business City of Burnside. So Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to support the report we brought to Council that addresses small business in the City of Burnside. We're all aware of the number of small businesses in our city and that they're the backbone of some of our local activities. They contribute to jobs, growth, support for youth employment and the overall vibrancy of our local community. However, especially over the past couple of years, they've faced numerous challenges, business shut down to numerous barriers. This report will hopefully serve as a crucial step in addressing and fostering an environment for small business success. This is simply seeking a report with options that will enable small business to overcome barriers, invest in their growth, and hopefully create more local opportunities here in Burnside. We have a responsibility to provide the necessary resources to ensure their success. By attracting new small business owners, we'll further increase local growth and activity. I envision the report will outline the streamlined permit processes, marketing initiatives, seminars and workshops, and ways they'll make Burnside an attractive destination for new owners and investors. Inclusivity is a key to success of our local community, and hopefully we can learn from other councils throughout this process, identifying ways to design effective and equitable support programs that cater to our unique backgrounds and needs. I don't think any of us would argue that small businesses operating in and committed to the local community play a vital role in making Burnside such a vibrant place in which to live and work. This is because locally owned and operated enterprises reflect the character of their neighbourhoods and people. The provision of these sort of services will not only help small business owners to better manage their costs and operate more efficiently, but it could also be an opportunity to promote the concept of the circular economy and how operating sustainably delivers benefits to us all. I believe this motion will help to address and increase small business activity in the East, provide more support, enhancing youth employment, and I also hope you'll support it. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to I go along with the sentiments of Councillor Zing, and I think it'd be really useful to have a report that shows provides all of this information and just gives us some clarification about what we can do to help our small businesses. So we get approached all the time, or from time to time, and just to have all of this information would certainly be very useful. So hopefully you'll support this.
Can I just ask a question of Ms Reynolds? And that is, there is reference made, of course, in the CEO's comments to Propel SA. And I'm just aware that there will be a number of new people sitting around this table who are actually not aware of the role of Propel SA. And I was wondering if you might just give the councillors an understanding or knowledge of Propel and what it does.
Sure, through the Mayor. Propel SA is an organisation which is formed by 3 councils primarily, and that's Walkerville, Campbelltown and Burnside. So the 3 councils contribute and run an organisation called Propel SA, which is essentially for the business community. And they offer a number of services such as mentoring. They do meet and greets as well as networking events and opportunities for small businesses for a space to go and get some advice. And, if they are looking at starting a business, etc., they can go to Propel SA and gain some advice. So essentially what we are doing with Propel SA is looking at, the value proposition for Propel, and we will be scheduling in a workshop with council so that council can get a more in-depth understanding into what Propel stands for and what it delivers for the City of Burnside and the 3 councils.
I just also wanted to point out that we also have had an association, and during the last council we actually had the Small Business Commissioner come to talk to the council about the role of the Commissioner, who provides additional services to our local business community. And through Propel SA, they can be put in contact with the Small Business Commissioner for additional guidance and help. I just wanted to put this forward so people who are new to council particularly are aware of some of the services that are already in position for supporting what is so important, because we do know that the small business is the crux of our community. So I'm talking because there's no one else on the screen at this point in time, so I'm waiting. Councillor.
Yes, I always worry. I'm happy for a report to come, but I did see under 1.1 about grants and incentives, and that worries me, because I'm hoping that we're not doing this so that we provide grants to small business. I think where small business looks at our council is that we have to be serious that when we talk about rates, we talk not only about residents but also about small business. And we made a decision earlier tonight to increase the rates higher with small business, and yet we didn't agree. We agreed to do that. So I just feel like where small business comes to us is not only to support and promote what they are trying to do, but also that their costs that we put on them is the lowest that we can possibly be. So we must be representing tonight both residents and small business in our respective wards.
Councillor Hench.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions for the administration. Broadly, this report will be done in-house using staff time.
Through Madam Mayor, yes it will.
Right, thank you. And one more question. Just wanted to, for myself and also the administration, number 4, clarify what potential partnerships between the City of Burnside and local small business to support and enhance youth employment would mean to the administration. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, my understanding is that's the task that's been given me to go and research, and so we'll have a look at that and provide that in the report. So I can't give you those examples right now, but it'll be part of our research into writing this report about looking at what other local governments are doing in that space, and could potentially be tailored to the City of Burnside, should that be Council's wish.
Councillor Jones?
Colleagues, Ronald Reagan famously remarked that the 9 most terrifying words in the English language were, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." So I'm kind of philosophically opposed to this motion. And I know it's only a report, but I do get a subtext that it's going to involve us spending more money. So regrettably, it's a no from me.
Councillor Corbett?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I'm of the same ilk, and same with Councillor Dawes. And it reminds me of the Escosa letter that we received, being the first one, and them alluding to the fact that we're the only metropolitan council in Adelaide that does not do differential rating for businesses. We keep it at the exact same low rate as residential. So we are helping out business quite a lot in comparison, because their advice was that we should look at that and potentially increase rates for businesses. But we've chosen not to do that, and we still support Propel SA and the Commissioner or the Office for Local Business or Small Business, and the support that they provide. I think I'm probably loathed, unfortunately, to support this motion. I do know enough about what we provide at the moment, and I think the support that we provide is pretty good. So I won't be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett?
I've got a question that is, or perhaps a suggestion. I actually thank you, Mayor, about the explanation about what Propel SA is. But when it says we support them, what does that mean? Do we give them some money? And do we ever get a report from them to say what they're doing? And if not, could we ask them to prepare a report about what we could be doing to better support businesses, small businesses?
Yes. Madam Mayor, I might just refer that to Ms Reynolds, just to give us some insights into perhaps any reporting mechanisms that exist or don't exist at the minute from Propel.
Through the Mayor, the contribution we make towards Propel SA is $45,000 a year, and we do have an annual report that's prepared by Propel. There is a board. There are 3 council representatives from each of the councils on the board, as well as non-council representatives on the board. There is an annual report that is produced, and I'll be happy to provide that from the previous year to council.
And generally we get invitations to attend all the Propel SA events. Most of them we pay for ourselves, but they are often send it as an email to us, and I think there's a lunch in a couple of weeks' time at the Kensington Hotel, if I remember rightly. So those things are available to any elected member, and that's a good way of finding out about what Propel does and how it operates. And certainly for some of us who've been on council for a while, we have attended a number of those events. And of course, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Jones, you actually attended the one that was co-funded by Propel, which was the Small Business Awards that were awarded back and that we had up at Penfold. So these things are quite accountable, Councillor Hallett, in terms of access, availability, and as you heard, financial reports are submitted. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I will go back to Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm especially keen to support this motion because the current climate is one in which there's positive and proactive encouragement at all levels of government for SMEs. In addition, the researching, writing and presentation of such a report would enable Council to consider the ways in which we could foster new business growth, facilitate employment and build a more resilient local economy in Burnside. It is therefore only appropriate that we take this opportunity to critically examine the levels and types of support currently being provided to small businesses in Burnside and what we could be doing better or more of. Overall, what will be crucial is that this report is as wide-ranging as possible and examines all the various different ways council could support SMEs in order to grow a thriving local economy in the City of Burnside.
I put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Thank you for your motion, however, Councillor Zing. The next one is Councillor Cornish, review of regulated and significant tree assistance policy.
Thank you, Worship. I move as printed in the motion. I suppose, and it's pretty self-explanatory, we have a policy that provides assistance to residents with a regulated or a significant tree on their property. This actually excludes businesses and community organisations that are not residential properties. A tree's a tree, no matter how big it is, no matter what land it's on, and I think we should protect it and we should support it as much as we can. So I'm asking for us to have a review of the policy and see whether or not we can incorporate that, but that would be at a later stage. But I'm just calling on council to review the policy at this stage.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I'll second. I'll reserve my right.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull.
Could I please ask a question of administration? Sorry, it's a frog in the throat. In the 2022 year, how many residents, not businesses, but residents applied for and received the tree assistance, and what was the approximate cost to council?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Cant. He may have, oh sorry, Mr. Cooper. Sorry, my mistake. We may have the figures at hand, I'm not sure.
Through the Mayor, sorry, Councillor Turnbull, could you just repeat the question? Was it how many applicants? That's right.
In the 2022 year, how many residents applied for and received the assistance, and what was the approximate cost to council, please? Just residents, not the non-resident lot.
Yep. Okay, through the Mayor, as you recall, we have a budget of $60,000 set aside for this fund in the budgeted year. Of that, we spent just under 40,000 in total, which is a little bit down on what we spent the year before. That's because traditionally over the last year, it's been quite hard to find arborists and get them to do the work, so that's taken a bit longer. So in total, we've had 20 applications approved, and we've assisted 25 trees. And there was an average cost of the works is just under $2,000 per tree. The total applications received were 32, but of those only 20 were actually approved or processed this year.
Thank you. Can I speak to it, please?
Yes, of course.
I have another cough. Yes, please. I did actually ask how many business or community groups did apply for assistance. It was one, because they weren't under the screening. But I'd like to be reassured that there's a demonstrated need for this motion. It seems like it could be a one-off issue for a group which may or may not pay rates. Just that I remembered that we had one in the St. Peter's Girls' School that wanted a significant eucalyptus tree removed, and they paid for their own arborist, to trim it, and then he didn't do a very good job, so then they paid for the whole tree to be removed. They actually paid. Now, they're a you call it profit. They don't pay rates anyway, a bit like churches and things like that. So I just wanted to know that the non-rate paying institution, do they need to pay their own way? So that's my question, a rhetorical question, that maybe we don't need to have this motion that's a bit over the top. Thank you.
You don't want to answer that one?
Through Madam Mayor, I might just make a comment. This motion, just to clarify for Councillor Turnbull, the motion isn't seeking to enshrine the change, but rather just trigger the review. So any final incantation would come back. Is that a fair understanding, Councillor Cornish?
Yeah, we're going through a review process of the policy.
Yeah, so it's not looking to enshrine.
Any other changes to the policy, throw them up.
Yeah. So just want to confirm it's not enshrining the proposed change.
Anyone else who wishes to... Oh, Councillor Henschke.
Oh, thank you. Look, it's a noble thing, but look, I go back to our budget, I go back to the Essential Services Commission, who have pointed out to us that we have an affordability risk for our ratepayers, and we really can't afford to have more budgets put aside for this sort of thing. Especially like businesses, some businesses can afford this and should. The intent of our budget, that 60,000, the intent is that people, our residents who struggle to pay rates, can still have their significant gum trees pruned through this. Literally, it's a grant scheme. So I really believe that we don't need to review what we've got. It seems we've got a budget. As the administration said, we have $40,000 spent.
Sorry, Councillor Henschke, this is actually not about budget. This is just asking for a review of the policy.
But I don't know why we're reviewing the policy, because it's perfectly fine at the moment.
Anyone can ask at any time.
I'm saying, why do we need to do this? I'm speaking to the motion and saying, why are we needing to do this?
I know you are, but you're talking about money and value, and that's not what is being debated. The debate is about whether or not an elected member has the right to bring a motion to council who wants the council to review a policy. Now, anyone sitting around this table can come to council and ask for a review of any policy that we have. And that is what we're debating now, whether or not we support the opportunity for a review or not. It's not about budget, it's not about money, it's not about places that we want to or don't agree with supporting. It is just to find out if you're willing to have a review or not. That's all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, but in the discussion of the motion, it does say the current policy excludes some of within the City of Burnside community, anything not residential property. So the intent of the review is about reviewing the policy for non-residential properties.
That's exactly what I just said. Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I've never seen a motion like this since I've been on council, I have to say. I don't know whether the motion is worded correctly. Request a review. My first question to administration is, what does that mean in your seat? Because I'm struggling to know what it means.
Oh, okay. Through Madam Mayor, if you think about the policies that council normally adopts, we normally set a review time frame.
Yeah.
So normally been 2 or 4 years generally, depending on the policy. Every policy at some point in the policy mentions the point that council can review this policy at any time. So what Councillor Cornish is seeking to do here is trigger a review.
Trigger that. Okay.
So that's what it's asking.
To make it happen earlier than it maybe is required.
Thank you for that. So therefore 7.1, which follows on from what Councillor Henschke is saying, that when you review it, it may mean that we're going to, unfortunately, Councillor Jones, ask for an increase in budget. Because you look at 7.1, that's a financial implication.
My answer to that would be is only if it does require it. But at the moment, we just heard that the budget actually hasn't been spent for this year, that there actually haven't been as many applications as we have a budget. So and in any case, if we were to be looking at going above the budget, that would become another whole issue in terms of a budgetary request for the next financial year. So this is not committing this is the point I was trying to make. It is not committing any funds whatsoever. It is purely asking for the council to administration to bring forward this review earlier than whenever it's scheduled, so that it can be looked at again, and therefore, as a result, we, as a council, or you, make a decision as to whether or not you want to see any amendments made to that policy. If I'm incorrect, Councillor Cornish, since it's your motion, you can correct me when you get to speak at the end. Now, Councillor Jones.
Look, I will now speak, second the motion. Look, I agree there could be budgetary implications, but my view of this, we're just splitting the existing pie differently. I was a bit surprised, I obviously wasn't paying attention last council term, that the policy doesn't include businesses or not-for-profit groups, and I think it's logical that it should, because the whole purpose of this policy is to support our regulated significant trees, and who they're owned by shouldn't really matter. And I know Councillor Henschke has raised equity objections, and I recall former Councillor Davis saying the same thing, that this was a policy that was anti-unit owners, because they didn't have big gum trees in their back gardens, and only rich people had them in their giant half-acre blocks. But I think we're mostly agreed that there are public benefits from significant and regulated trees that we all benefit from, and therefore there's a compelling policy argument for why the public should therefore give some money to private landowners in compensation for the positive externality that they provide. Sorry to get into economics here, but yeah, so that is why I will support the motion.
Councillor Henschke, you wish to ask another question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. When is the scheduled review for this policy? Because we have many policies with scheduled reviews, and we have review schedules for a reason. October 24th. So I need to know why now, why bring it forward now?
Through Madam, my understanding, because I don't want to take words out of Councillor Cornish's mouth, but it would result in it being reviewed 1 year earlier, just to clarify the timeline. And my understanding is, an event occurred that triggered the consideration. Sorry, an event occurred that pointed out that perhaps we need to review the policy earlier than is scheduled. Councillor Cornish, I'm sure, can cover it.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I will go back to Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Councillor Jones. It's exactly what I'm meaning with this. A tree, no matter which land it is on, that is providing benefit for our entire community, should be looked after. It did come up from a church who raised an issue locally with us. They have concerns that a significant tree is going to fall over and hurt someone. Those members there at the time were trying to convince them to potentially look at pruning the tree rather than removing it completely, because it is a large eucalypt that is very prominent in the area. They were probably not of that ilk to want to keep the tree. They were too worried about the safety of it. But during that debate, we found out that they wouldn't even be able to apply for assistance anyway for an arborist to go in there and try and prune it to actually make it safer. And that caused me significant angst, not for this particular one, because they're obviously going down the road of removing the tree completely because they consider it a safety issue. But I considered all the other trees on all the other not-for-profit land and businesses that are regulated or significant that I think this council and our community would want us to try and protect as much as possible, whether or not that's opening up the tree assistance fund for them to apply for up to $2,000 to help actually look after those trees, because no matter what piece of land they're on, I see them from like hundreds of metres away, and I don't care whose land they're on. I think they're beautiful, and we should try and, as a community, to protect them as much as we can. That's where it came from. It's not going to fix this tree that that this church has raised. I will raise, though, that a lot of the not-for-profit schools actually do pay rates. So St Peter's Girls do actually pay rates. I know that was a question that came up, and you would actually open them up to be able to use some of this fund, which is $20,000 underspent, which we've just heard. So I'm not seeking at all with an increase of budget at this point in time, or that'd be for a later council if it's ever considered, or if there is huge call on the fund. But I just think we shouldn't. The equity is about the tree and where the tree is actually where it's growing. I don't think we should actually go, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to help this huge tree that everyone loves in the community because it's on, for-profit or not-for-profit land, rather than a residential property. It's just ridiculous. We should be looking after trees. We're a tree city of the world. We're losing our canopy as we speak, and we really need to do something about it. And this is just one little tool that we can do for the community to keep as many trees as we possibly can on private land. Thank you.
I put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Now we will move to...
I'm sorry, Worship, it's me again.
Yes,
I've got three tonight. I do apologise to everyone. I've got a bit happy.
Page 509. That's what happens when you go away on holidays and you come back with all of this unspent energy.
Yes, unspent energies. That's exactly right. Chamber, and councillors, I'm asking us to write to the Minister for Local Government for his department to actually look at a new rating category for rates for properties that have been built but remain vacant or unoccupied. Tonight we put forward the budget, and you could see the different types of rating categories, and one being vacant land. Now, we've got the ability to do a differential rate for vacant land where no house is built, but there are a lot of houses that are actually built, and people ensure that no one lives in them for sometimes 20 years. I know in Eastwood, there's a couple of homes there that have had no one living in them for quite some time. Now, we can't charge them the differential vacant land rate, but we've also got a housing crisis in Australia, and this wouldn't be the panacea. It's not the panacea, and I really don't think the state government would do much about it, but I'd like to see if they could actually do something about it and introduce a new rating category where we could actually potentially do differential rates for people that want to land hoard and buy lots of properties and ensure that potentially heritage properties go derelict over a long time because no one's actually living in them. So I'd like to actually see the local government minister come up with some sort of alternative, and with the pressure of actual housing crisis at the moment, to be able to open up a lot of these unused dwellings around lots of cities in Australia might actually help out in that aspect as well. And this again would be a small tool that councils would be able to use in South Australia to try and promote and make sure that when that a house actually has someone living in it, or a property has someone actually living in it. And it's just writing to the minister. So I don't really think that the state government would be able to do much, but I would like to see them try.
Councillor Henschke, you wishing to second it?
Oh yes, no, this is very important. As time goes on, there'll be, as Councillor Cornish said, more and more properties purchased, perhaps not occupied, and it's a real crisis, housing crisis we don't want.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes.
I do understand. I've read very carefully the CEO's comments here, and it is going to be so difficult to determine what qualifies as a vacant or unoccupied property. And if you know the Aged Care Act, if the owners are moved into an aged care facility, they have 2 years in which they must sell their home. So invariably, in our ward, I've seen, as Councillor Turnbull would say, we've seen so many houses which are unoccupied, and you can understand what, because their lawns are not mowed and all that sort of thing, and the family doesn't keep the house up to date. But, the hard bit here is trying to find a system that's fair and efficient, complies and so forth. I would like to say that, gee, it must be at least 3 years it's unoccupied and all that sort of thing. I can see some benefits from the point of view of people getting tenants in and so forth, but I just don't know this one. I just need to be, perhaps Councillor Cornish, when he responds, to try and convince me that this is going to be worthwhile. I'm just finding it difficult to find a solution to it.
Councillor Jones?
I think this is a laudable aim.
Yes.
I question whether the state government will do anything. I suspect the devil is in the detail. I suspect if you did this in the city of Salisbury, the thought of council snoopers spying on people with their 5G equipment would not go down well. But we're more sensible in Burnside, thankfully. So look, I probably will support it. I do think the heritage properties is a good point. I mean, I think of heritage properties in St George's and Waturna Terrace. Blindingly obvious it's vacant, you know. So I take the point, and there's ones in Glenunga we know about as well. And we do know those ones in Eastwood on Matilda Lane. So I think, you know, whilst there's going to be grey areas, there are some things which are pretty blatant, and I have to say the heritage protection idea I find appealing. So I'm going to vote in favour.
Councillor Temple?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'm sort of hesitant on this one too. I think it's a great idea, but very difficult to implement. And in 1.1, the word there that got me was choose. Owners choose not to do anything with them. It's their choice. We live in a democracy. I actually practiced saying the word totalitarian.
That's it.
Which I didn't get it, because we're not, and we're a democracy. So if my neighbour chooses to go around Australia in a caravan for 5 years, or 10 years even, he can leave his house there, so he's got something to come back to. It's his choice. So the word to choose concerns me there, but I'll vote for it, go for it, because of the heritage bit. But that's all, really.
Councillor Wilkins?
I actually am concerned when you raise the properties in Eastwood, because that particular owner has actually restored the front of the property and is in like mind to continue to do so now that he has rear access. So you should applaud the actions of that owner. And but I do think it's worthy of investigating and putting the current government on, or ask them a question and see what they come up with. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, I will go back to Councillor Cornish. Oh, sorry. Councillor Jennings, you just got in the nick of time.
Excellent. Thank you, Your Worship. Only last week I was visiting a married couple, a ratepayer on Bevington Road, who live next to a derelict property which has been left.
Yes.
And the selling agent, they were telling me, was saying, "Don't worry, you'll be able to get past the heritage laws." And I'm absolutely petrified that fire will come next. And unfortunately, that I see it a lot. Happened across the road from my parents, and we shouldn't tolerate it. And we're simply asking a question and making Burnside a better council for doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you every member here for your contribution. In terms of, I hope I do get your support, Councillor Dawes. I don't have a magic wand, and I can't guarantee it. It's a question of the state government. Whether or not it's a requirement in the Act that each council, if they choose to have this, has to have a policy on actually how to implement it. And I don't mind your idea of, 3 years. I kind of was thinking 2 or 3 in my head, because you do have to make it fair. But maybe there's a statutory declaration that they can fill Councillor Turnbull if they're travelling Australia for 5 years. I don't know what the policy might be. I want them to research it. I think it would be a good idea to hit on a couple of the issues that I've raised in terms of the social housing aspect and getting people actually in housing. It will keep the maintenance of heritage buildings and homes within the city of Burnside well looked after, and it will actually provide better amenity for the whole city because there's more people actually living and caring within our community and looking after things. So, look, there are benefits. I'm not saying that it's not going to be tricky, and it will be a tricky thing, but I can't tell what the state government should do. They might decide to do a workshop with all councils if they want to bring it in. They might make it optional if they do want to bring it in. I don't know. But I don't hold my breath, like Councillor Jones said, as I said even in my opening, that the state government would be able to do anything to begin with. But I do hope you support the motion. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. We've only got one more item. Are you happy for us to continue and then finish the meeting rather than have a 10-minute break now? I'm not going to ask a motion. I can see everyone's nodding, well, almost everyone's nodding, so we will move on. And the lucky last is also Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Your Worship. This came out from conversation recently that the Honourable Member for Bragg is getting together a petition for the State Parliament regarding trucks on Portrush Road. This has been a long issue that this council has been raising for the past 2+ decades with the state government and potentially the federal government as well. And I realise that there was a meeting actually held with federal government representatives yesterday and state government representatives. I've got this motion that I liaised with the member for Bragg's office on, and I hope you support it. It's just providing our continued support on this issue for our ratepayers and residents.
Councillor Henschke?
Yes, seconding, thank you.
Do you wish to speak?
No.
Councillor Harvey, can you just turn your mic off, please? Councillor Harvey?
Thank you, Mayor. I will support this motion with the following variation, that Council write to the Honourable Members of the House of Representatives of the Parliament of Australia urging the Government to support the implementation of a Greater Adelaide Freight Bypass to get trucks off our local roads, including Portrush Road, and encourage our residents via social media to support the petition urging the government to implement a Greater Adelaide Freight Bypass to get trucks off our local roads, including Portrush Road.
It's a variation, it's not an amendment. I'm fine with that, and I'm just going to suggest you might want to use the word particularly Portrush Road.
Particularly
instead
Portrush
of including.
Road.
Yeah, just a suggestion. There were 3 of us who attended that meeting yesterday, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Jennings and myself, and of course our CEO, and so we learnt a lot from that meeting and that opportunity. Yes, I've just got to double check with the mover and the seconder. I know the mover is nodding.
Yep.
I haven't asked the seconder though. Councillor Henschke, are you okay with that addition? All right, okay. Because it's not a change in the motion, it's just additional people, and we've done that a number of times where we've written to additional people on the same issue. So, okay, so do you want to speak any further?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. At a meeting yesterday with MPs James Stephens and Jack Batty, along with Senator the Honourable Bridget McKenzie, Burnside CEO Chris Cowley, Mayor Monceau, Councillor Jennings and councillors from Norwood, Payneham and St Peters, and including myself, it was clear that there is an enormous support to get trucks off, particularly Portrush Road. This is a project to bypass trucks at Murray Bridge to Truro, and many factors have obviously been taken into consideration here, including not only safety but also noise pollution, air pollution and we learnt yesterday from Mayor Monceau that with air pollution it was including rubber coming off tyres of trucks, infiltrating into the air, causing more air pollution. Trucks frequently hit tree branches along Portrush Road, causing a huge hazard to traffic. Portrush Road has also got major schools located along the road, and I have seen many times drivers getting hemmed in beside huge B-double trucks and becoming very nervous, which is also a potential hazard. A petition, as Councillor Cornish said, is being run by MP Jack Batty as a way to support this motion of getting trucks off Portrush Road. This can be signed at 357 Greenhill Road, Toorak Gardens at the Bragg Electoral Office. So I would encourage you to please support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
I have a question. I have already signed Mr Batty's petition, so do I have an apprehension of bias? Because I've already said I support it.
Through Madam Mayor, you're more than welcome to note that and note that you'll stay in the room and continue to vote if you wish.
I'll note my conflict of interest.
Speak my mind.
Yes, I won't speak.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sorry I couldn't go to the meeting yesterday, but I was with the Mayor when we were recently at a meeting at St Saviour's at Glen Osmond, being drowned out by the BWs going around the corner on their route to Melbourne and interstate during the evening. It happened 4, 5, 6 years ago when we went to a previous meeting on the same topic. So I do support this, not only for the safety for the travelling public in small vehicles, but also for the pollution. It's the particulates that the diesel and the rubber leave behind in the environment, which is essentially major Highway 1, 6,000 movement volumes through each day, and it's polluting our residential neighbourhood, and that I do object to. So yes, we do need to support this particular motion. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? I'd like to just add that 650,000 trucks go along Portrush Road in a year, 1,000 a week. And what the major change in the meeting that both Councillor Wilkins and I attended and that we discussed yesterday as well, is that about 5 years ago, the trucking industry were not supportive of the bypass, but they are now. And it was raised by one of the Nord councillors yesterday who wanted to know, well, why has this been a change? And the change is that the truck industry now realise that even though it's an extra distance that they have to travel, they can maintain a regular speed. They don't have to decelerate coming down the hills. They don't have to negotiate all the bends and slow down to 60 k's an hour for that entire part of the trip and then through the city. So the additional journey that they will need to make, if this were to happen, is actually now something that the trucking industry or the freight industry actually desire. Whereas 5 years ago when this, or 5 or 6 years ago when this came to our previous councils, 2 councils ago, when we wrote to the council, we wrote to the state government only about 2 weeks before that major accident occurred at the intersection where people were killed. And when we were concerned about and alerting the government to the issues in relation to the trucking industry coming down the freeway. So they're the major things that have really, really changed. And as a result, we just need to get funding one way or another from whoever will give it. Councillor Wilkins, did you want to ask a question?
Can I just add one further comment from the meeting at St Saviour's recently? DPTI, John Whelan, actually said that they are already working on the drawing and the planning for this route around the Eastern Hills.
problem that was stated to us yesterday is that there seems to be an obstacle in the way that this current state government have stopped action on the Truro bypass, and that is something that has already been studied with the community. The consultation's already occurred. The community is quite happy about it, but they apparently put a hold and a stop on it. So that's one of the things that alerted the drawing together of people who are interested, and particularly the minister from Canberra, the senator, was particularly keen on learning from both Norwood Paine of St Peters and our council what the issues are in terms of transport industry. So, okay, Councillor Dawes.
Yes, now, Councillor Harvey gave me this yesterday, and I just try, perhaps someone can tell me, setting aside the cost for the Truro bypass, we just put that aside, the remaining costs are 27 million, which didn't seem very much. But I remember the previous government had this, was it $2 billion sort of thing? It was a huge cost. So what's the difference between this one we got the other day and the previous government's? Can anybody tell me that? Yes.
It's the planning study.
A planning study?
Yes. It's not the cost.
Oh, it's got funding, so okay, therefore it will still cost more.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
And I think the other issue... the other issue of concern for us all is that the intent at the moment is to try to divert trucks down crossroads instead of Portrush, and all we're doing is moving the problem from one set of communities to another set of communities. So that is not something that is desirable, and we also discussed that yesterday. We're just as concerned about the likes of residents of Mitcham and Unley councils as we are of Norwood, Paine and St Peters, although we currently have the problem.
Can I also say, Madam Mayor, that the state government won't want to divert any funds from actually finishing off South Road?
I know. Anyway, it is Councillor Cornish's motion, so I'll go back to you.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you everyone for your contribution. Councillor Harvey has just mentioned that I should say that Adelaide is the only city in Australia where the freight route goes through the city, through residential areas, so which is quite important thing to note. I'd also note of the ever-expanding intersections like at McGill. And could you imagine if they try and do that out here on this intersection and the next intersection and the one with churches and heritage, if you're going to have to keep doing that? So please, support this motion. Thank you.
I put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you for supporting that. It's been certainly my concern for the last 13 years. I think that is our last item. Just before I close the meeting, I just want to not alert you to, but congratulate a number of people who, we had 9 residents of Burnside who were honoured in the King's Birthday Honours. 9. I don't think in all of my years on council we've ever had that number. So we have Mr. Kenneth Pocock, OAM, Dr. Philip Titterman, AM, Dr. Paul Sambrook, AM, Ms. Jane Jeffries, AM, Mrs. Josephine Cooper, AM, Dr. Karen Alexander, AM, Professor Brendan Kearney, AO, Associate Professor Robert Ali, AO, and Dr. Neil Maycock, Public Service Medal. So I'd like to just formally congratulate all of those residents of Burnside for the amazing honours list, and I will be printing them in the Focus article. I've already done that. Yeah. I always write letters to Australia Day Honours and was Queen's Birthday, now King's Birthday. So I will close the meeting now unless there's any other business at 9:14, and thank you all for your attendance.